I was a real studious person, so I enjoyed class. I really loved my classes. I took a lot of difficult things like Greek, but I loved our Greek teacher, Dr. Cooper. The Cooper Room is named for him. I think he's the only professor we've had that's a Phi Beta Kappa. You see his Phi Beta Kappa key on his coat there. And he was our vice president when I was a student here. And then he was the president, the interim president one year between presidents. But he was a wonderful person. And all of our professors, because our classes were small, were very good in helping us individually and often invited us to their homes for meals. I mean, their wives would have us come and they would serve supper for us. And they thought the college girls wanted opportunities to get off the campus, and so they would, invite us to come. And that was some of our favorite things, was going and to the homes of some of those. One of my professors was a lady named Dr. Blizzard, and she left here and became a psychiatrist. And one time I had to introduce her at a meeting, and I said I didn't know if Psych-Lit drove her to psychiatry, but it drove a lot of students there. Because in those days, Psych-Lit was considered the most difficult class we had here at Belhaven. I always thought I was not one that pull the pranks, but I got to enjoy those that other people did. And sometimes they did really funny things, but they don't want me to tell what they are because they don't give anybody any more ideas of doing those. But I will tell you one that I just thought was the absolutely funniest thing that anybody ever did. I was teaching here then, but for their senior prank, these girls in Fitzhugh made a tombstone for every faculty person out of cardboard. They shaped them different shapes, some with crosses, some just squares, and they painted them, and they put them over there between Fitzhugh and Preston in that little green thing, so that when you drove in the campus and looked over there, it looked like a cemetery. All these tombstones were just standing there, and they had the dean of students hanging in effigy, and they had the president in a casket at the thing, and they said he had gotten hit at the door of his open door policy. That was one of their things they like to talk about. But they had a tombstone for everybody, and like my tombstone had a Coke bottle on top of it because I was noted for always walking around with my Coke. And like the English teacher's tombstone had the dates of Shakespeare. And everybody's tombstone had something that was unique to that person and to their discipline. And so when we got here, everybody went out and walked around, and nobody had 8 o'clock class. Everybody was walking around reading all the tombstones. They were so clever. And before that, they had done things like take all the desk out and put them out in the yard, or they had filled up the Bible department with newspaper, or just did a lot of things that were silly, but this one was clever. One thing they did one time that was really funny, but it was not necessarily good, was we went to breakfast, and there wasn't any utensils there, no forks, knives, or spoons. Everything was gone. And everybody just had to eat their grits with their fingers. And then we opened the library, and there in the library, at every table, was a place setting of all the Bibles. And some boys had gotten in there and spent all night. They had stayed in there, been locked in, got the silverware, made the library look like a dining hall, and waited for everybody to come to breakfast with no utensils. That was the kind of things that they did in the 70s they thought were real funny, and some of them were clever that they thought them up, But I don't know. One time we had this boy running for student body president, and he got a plane and flew over Belhaven, and with a megaphone, and it said, "The Lord wants you to vote for Joel Richardson," and he dropped out pamphlets, and he won. And then one year I thought this was great. One of the boys was an outstanding boy, and they wanted him to be the student body president, but he said he didn't have time to campaign. So he wasn't running. And 3 other people were running. And the students just thought he ought to be it. So they wrote his name in. And he got 90% of the votes with a write-in. And so he became the student body president. He's a preacher now somewhere. So all of my stories are true stories, but I can't tell all of them. One time those boys went and got the big boy from Shoney's and put him in the lagoon. And then the maintenance department had to get him out and go back and apologize to them for it, and they used to always dye the lagoon different colors, red for Valentine's and green on St. Patrick's Day. And then the poor maintenance department had to go down there and clean it out, But, our people don't do as many pranks anymore, and I think that's good, because after all, we are here to learn, But I think that kind of goes with the generations. Some of the generations were more prank-oriented than others, and we were here to watch them. But I would say my most fun thing I ever did was to sing on the Christmas tree. Remember I told you I came to see it when I was little, but when I was a student, I didn't get to sing on it because I worked every afternoon, and you had to practice in the afternoon. So my roommate and all my other friends got to sing on it, but I didn't get to. And so when I came here to teach, I said to the choir director I'd always wanted to sing on it. And he said, well, he let alumni and faculty sing on it. So he let me sing on it for 10 years. And so I think now I've sung on the tree more than anybody dead or alive. But anyway, that was my greatest thrill, was the day I got to climb up and sing on the tree. Belhaven was the first to ever have a tree. They called it the living tree. And Mr. McLean was our maintenance man, and he designed that frame that they stood on. And Miss Caldwell, that Caldwell Dorm is named for, was directing it. And after a while, a lot of, when it was the 40th year, it was on the front of Southern Living. And then after that, Belhaven got tons of mail saying, how do you do this and how do you build that frame? And now people have them everywhere, inside churches and outside and everywhere. But some man from the Carolinas wrote, and I sent him all of our material, and he wrote us back and said Belhaven was the absolute first to have it. And I knew we were, but, since other people were having it too. But we had the proof from the papers, that Belhaven was the first to ever do that. And so Belhaven has a good many first, but I think that's one that's important that we remember, And it goes with our Christian theme, too. I had taught 7 years, and I won this award as the Outstanding Young Educator in America, and went to Washington and was given this award, and this a lot of publicity went with it, because in those days, Mississippi hadn't been acclaimed for many things. This was in 1964 or 5. And so every college called me and said, would you like to come and teach in our department? Because I had won that award, they wanted to say I was going to work in their department. And Belhaven called me too. And so, I thought, I just said no to everybody else, because I love teaching elementary children. I had no plans ever to do anything but teach little children. That's always what I wanted to do. And so when the president of Belhaven called me, it was Dr. Cleland. He had been my principal when I was in junior high school. And he said, but you'll have an opportunity to share your philosophy about teaching with more people. And so I said, well, I'll come, for 2 years, but I'm going to keep my license to teach in the public school, because I may want to go back to that. And I kept my license up until just this year. So if I ever wanted to go back to teaching in the public schools, I could. But I came to Belhaven because it had been my school and I loved it, and I thought, well, that might be something good to do, because when you get old, you might not be able to work with little children. And so maybe it would be good for me to know that I could do something else. So then I came to Belhaven and I taught several years here. And I loved it so much, and I loved the students. And I was the director of the student teaching for many, many years. So I got to go to the public schools every week and watch my girls teach. And and make suggestions and help. And so I just really loved it. And then I never wanted to leave. But I would not have ever thought of applying myself, because I would have thought just teaching in the elementary school is what I wanted to do. But now I am just so glad I have been able to teach so many people here at Belhaven, and so many of them have become really outstanding in their fields in other places, and I'm glad I got to know them, through here. Every child is a child of God. Everybody is a special living soul, and everybody deserves a certain amount of attention. Everybody deserves to learn. Everybody deserves a special time of teaching. And no matter what grade you want to teach or what subject you want to teach, the main thing, you're teaching people. And you want to meet them where their needs are, and you want to know how to help them be the best that they can be, because we're going to teach a lot of people who have more talents than we have, that are more intelligent than we are. But what we want to do is we want to help them to develop into the talent that God gave them and to be what God wants them to be. And the most important thing is to honor them as important children of God, that they are important and that they can do something important and that they are worth something, and that we are here to help them. And we know if they can read and do math, if they know history, they'll be able to help people. They'll be able to do a better job of their own, with their own children, with their own life. And so I think from whether we're teaching them in child psychology or how to teach reading, it is always the same thing. We are honoring the children and saying, we're not so crazy about this subject. We are interested in these children and what talents they have and what they can do. And see, I'm just always amazed at what talents little children had when I taught, how some of them were so good in art or so good with writing or poetry. They already had that talent. They just needed somebody to tell them, you can do this. And most of the years I taught elementary school, I taught in the poorest school in the city. And yet some of my children that I taught there have become outstanding people. They've become, one year a whole bunch of them had become sheriffs. 3 sheriffs in this county I had taught in the same grade. And the boy who was second in command of the FBI had been one of my students there. But I taught a lot of children who were nurses and teachers, and I thought how wonderful it was, because they came from a poor background, and education is what really made the difference in their life. And somebody who said to them, not just me, but other teachers who said to them, you can do it, you can be somebody. You don't have to be, put down. And we thought that was a real important thing, and that's what we tell these people. We want them to be knowledgeable, have a lot of information to pass on to these children. We want them to know the best methods and strategies for teaching these things, but mainly we want them to honor that these are children of God who He has put here and put in our care for some special reason. I think many colleges produce great people, and I would not think that we had the corner on that. But I do think that the people who come to Belhaven are presented with a worldview that says we have a special place in the Lord's plan, and that we can send people out who have that view. And that if people want to hear all the world's views, they can hear that here, but then they can hear what I feel is the truth of the Bible here too. And being a Christian, we think it's real important that everybody have that. And we don't doubt that you will get a real good education in a secular school, but we don't know whether you will get the moral and spiritual values that will make your life really worthy and that will prepare you to serve people in this world and to prepare you for the life to come, because we believe there is a life to come. And we want everybody to have a good life here and have a glorious future. Well, I hope that the students who leave here will take away the fact that that they have been. I hope they'll feel that they are really prepared for what they wanted to do. I would feel real bad if somebody left and said we didn't prepare them for their profession. So I want them to feel prepared, but I want them to feel that they now have found their place in the world, and they will know how to go out and do that. And I hope they would feel that if they had a problem, that they could call us and ask us about it. It may be that I'll forget somebody I have taught, but so far I don't think I have. Most anybody, when they ask me if I remember them, sometimes they look different, but as soon as they tell me their name, I can tell them something about them that I remember, like the character they dressed as in the book. You know, the books, characters when they dress as a character from the book, or I can tell them something they wrote in child psych or something. I remember something about almost everybody I've ever taught, and except sometimes the men get bigger and grow beards and they don't look like they did when I taught them. But other than that, I do want them to think that we are still interested in their lives even when they leave us, and we continue to recommend people. Sometimes it's 20 years later somebody wants me to recommend them for a job, and we remember who they are, and we're glad to do that, you know. But we want them to feel that Belhaven prepared them and sent them forth to prepare other people.